Hi, this is Robert Miller. Let's talk more about the multiple regression equation, starting from right over here, all the way through the equation, and the multiple regression model, which starts here with the constant A and goes through our predictor variables, each with their own unstandardized regression coefficient value. What I want to do now is make this a little bit more realistic, like what you would see in an actual research project, let's say. Because if you remember from what I said to you earlier in this series about the regression coefficient values, and specifically the unstandardized regression coefficient values, is that what this value represents is the strength and the direction of the relationship between the predictor variable and the outcome variable. Okay? And so let's look at the direction side of the relationship here a little bit more. Okay, so we have the strength because we have the number. And so the 0.001, the 0.15, the 1.10 speaks to the strength of the relationship. It doesn't have a sign in front of it, and what that means is that it's a positive relationship between the predictor variable and the outcome variable. And then this would seem to be positive as well because you don't see a sign, and this would seem to be positive as well because you don't see a sign. And when you don't see a sign, we're talking about a positive relationship. But in reality, given the variables that we have up here, these predictor variables, so here our first predictor variable is annual department budget in dollars. That's our unit. And here we have a predictor variable level of depression, where a unit is a 1-point change in the score. And here we have a predictor variable round trip commute, measured in miles. So we have three very different predictor variables here, okay? And they are going to have different, not only strengths in the relationship between the predictor variable and the outcome variable, but also differences in the direction of the relationship. So let's go put down the direction here as well. Okay, here it'd be reasonable to think a positive relationship, so we'll leave that one alone. But for this unstandardized regression coefficient value, concerning level of depression, we would actually expect, because remember, our Y variable here, our outcome variable, has to do with organizational commitment. So we're talking about the direction of the relationship between level of depression and organizational commitment. Well, there I would expect the direction of the relationship to be negative. Okay, and here, for our third unstandardized regression coefficient value, it concerns the strength and also the direction of the relationship between this third predictor variable. Well, what is our third predictor variable? It's round trip commute and organizational commitment, our outcome variable. And I would expect the direction of that relationship to be negative as well. So we're going to put a negative sign there as well. Okay, so now we have not only the strength of the relationship between each of our predictor variables and the outcome variable, but also the direction of the relationship. So now let's interpret our unstandardized regression coefficient values for each of our predictor variables. All right, so here we're talking about the strength and direction of the relationship. This is our unstandardized regression coefficient value. The strength and direction of the relationship between our first predictor variable, annual department budget, and our Y variable, our outcome variable, organizational commitment. And the interpretation here of our unstandardized regression coefficient value would be that there is an increase of 0.001 unit on the outcome variable for every 1 unit of increase on the predictive variable. Okay? So this is a positive direction of the relationship here. So the changes occur in the same direction on the outcome variable and also on this predictive variable. Okay. Now let's look at this though. Okay, so here we have our second predictive variable, level of depression, and its unstandardized regression coefficient value, negative 0.15. Don't miss that negative sign. It's important you notice it. Okay, so now let's interpret that. So what this is saying is that there is a decrease of 0.15 of a unit on our outcome variable, organizational commitment. For every 1 unit of increase, so you notice they're going in different directions, decrease here, increase here. For every 1 unit of increase on our second predictive variable, level of depression. So if people are becoming more depressed, their organizational commitment is going down. Okay, so moving in opposite directions from one another. That's what that negative sign does. Negative direction to the relationship between the predictor variable and the outcome variable. The values are moving in opposite directions from one another. And here we have the unstandardized regression coefficient value for our third predictor variable, round trip commute. And that unstandardized regression coefficient value is also negative. So again, note the negative sign, negative 1.10. So that's saying that there is a decrease of 1.10 unit on our Y variable, our outcome variable, in organizational commitment. For every 1 unit increase in the round trip commute, okay, measured in miles. So for every extra mile of the round trip commute. Again, as the round trip commute goes up, organizational commitment is going down, moving in opposite directions from one another. Okay? So always notice, okay, in addition to the strength of the relationship between each of the predictor variables and the outcome variable, also the direction of the relationship. Here it's a positive direction, here it's a negative direction, and here it's a negative direction. Be sure to always note both, strength and direction. And you have a good day.